so many of us are just wandering around on autopilot and getting impacted by other people and the things they're doing and reacting to them. And so that's where I think coming back to that, really knowing who you are, what your values are, what you stand for, then it's almost like then you can have a bit of an energy shield around you in some ways, as you can look at them with more clarity, I suppose, and be like, oh, well, that's their values, but it's not mine.
What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is a belief that you didn't even know you had? In this episode, I sit down with wealth mindset coach and author Emma Lagerlow to talk about why you might feel stuck even when you're doing all of the right things. We unpack the hidden beliefs that quietly shape your decisions, the difference between purpose and validation, and what it actually takes to feel grounded in your own life. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, disconnected, or just unsure about whether you're on the right path, this one's worth a listen. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, nickbracks, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss why limiting beliefs are running your life. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Emma, thank you so much for making the time to come on the podcast.
Hi, Nick. Thank you for having me. It's really wonderful to be here on your show.
Appreciate it. I guess this happens so often. We sort of meet for the first time and start talking about the work you're doing, and I have to pull myself up because then we can end up spending 20 minutes talking about stuff that I want to ask you on here and help our listeners to learn about. So I'm super, I think I'm so interested in the work you do and the different topics we're going to cover, because I think they're just probably the most relevant thing that we can ask ourselves. So super excited to jump into that. Before I do, are you able to just give our listeners a quick background on yourself and explain, what you do?
Yeah, so right now I'm a wealth mindset coach, and I've just become an author of a book called Worthy and Wealthy. Prior to that, though, I had a 25-year corporate career. I've got a marketing degree. I worked in banking and finance, and but prior to that, I actually wanted to be a journalist. And so I feel like I'm almost coming full circle now in being an author. I have a podcast as well, and, being able to interview guests and that type of thing. And so it's just interesting. Maybe I should have really listened to, my gut when I was, 18, instead of getting dragged into what I thought society and what would drive me further in my life. But look, it's all served me well, and it's all, we were talking before we came on how there's the highs and the lows of life, and they're all lessons, and it gets you to where you are today. So super grateful to finally be an author, and to be sort of living in that more journalistic sort of way where you're interviewing people and podcasts and writing articles and all that type of thing. So super grateful for that.
I love that. And I think that's what happens if you keep putting yourself out there in life. You end up back in whatever realm you're supposed to be in, as long as you're open enough to, what's happening around you. I find that's, generally what happens. But that's such a cool story that you started out in that area and then you found your way back in this organic way to be doing something that's very much in line with, what you always wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that, creative pursuits are, it's harder to earn, a decent living from them. And so that's probably where I got swayed initially. And look, my book is called Worthy and Wealthy. And so having got into banking and finance and talking about money, look, it's really has served me well to be able to write my book. And yeah, and also just grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to explore that, because I think for some people they feel like they really are stuck in, whatever path they've chosen, and that there isn't any alternative. So if I can even be, a bit of inspiration, that if you are feeling that there's something more for you, or that you're not really satisfied with what you're doing, then there's definitely opportunities to explore more what's going to light you up in your life.
Yeah, which is like sort of one of the questions I was going to ask you. And I know the mistake I made in the past was I've never had the problem of sort of knowing, what I really wanted. That sort of came fairly early, but then I became so obsessive and single-minded about it that I missed opportunities that were in front of me because I deemed them as not in line with what I really wanted. And I guess it took me a while to learn that whatever we're doing it might not be exactly your in line with this what the big dream is, but often by taking these things that are in front of us, we learn skills that are going to come in handy for the things we'll do, to get us towards being able to actually achieve that. And if we don't, we're probably not going to have the skills to sustain what we do want to do. And I guess, like, have you found, and for anyone listening that does feel stuck, even if you are in a career that might not be exactly the direction you wanted to go in, being able to see that as, well, this still is actually it's all a culmination of things, and this is a stepping stone, and I'm going to be able to leverage these skills to take into redirecting, in the path I've wanted to go on.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that, even looking back on my past and having, listened to a few of your podcasts and learnt more about you, I've started listening to your book as well. Yeah, I think they're all stepping stones that we take in life, and whether we call it fate or whatever, that it is, we're predestined to end up wherever we are going to end up. But yeah, you can look back and think about the lessons that you've learned that have given you wisdom to be able to help other people or make more informed decisions for your own life. But having studied marketing and now being an entrepreneur, it was a great decision for me, because it's really helping me to even market my book now and know how that all operates. And as I said, working in banking and finance really helped me to now feel really confident talking about money and helping people to unpack that, because I think, again, money is something that we often are a bit scared to talk about, and so then we won't even reflect on what our money mindset might be that could be informing the way we are with money, and really it can also inform the way we are in our lives, if you have a scarcity mindset or that type of thing. So I think it's helped me to have all those experiences. And for anyone that's listening, I think definitely if you feel you're not really where you thought you would be or where you want to be, then you can look back on the stepping stones as clues to maybe where you want to head, or maybe where you definitely don't want to head in your life. But for me, it was wanting to write my book, and then finding a business coach, as I decided I'd start a blog and hopefully attract a few readers for my book. And that was about 4 years ago. And then I had a business coach at the time, and I did a little bit of life coaching as well. And I really I just felt like it was something that we've never explored, is, life's three biggest questions. It's just, who are you really? And what do you want? And then how are you going to get it? And I think so many of us are just walking around having never even thought about who they really are. What are your values? What are those beliefs around, money, but around just, who we are in general? I mean, the most common belief that really it always comes down to is that I'm not good enough. And so that can often hold us back from going for that job, or taking a leap and trying a new career, or even starting a new hobby, or whatever it might be. And when we are not even aware that that could even be something that's within us, then, how are we ever able to challenge it and move on from that? So I discovered coaching, and then I thought, wow, I could maybe do this myself and help people to uncover that about themselves. And so it led me to this book, and now it's led me to really supporting people to uncover who they uniquely and intrinsically are.
Yeah, which it's so, because we don't really get taught how to do that, or we don't really get taught to think like that. And then you're so far down the path that you're now trying to undo all of these different things that have happened, or, deal with it much later in life. Like, what, for anyone that is stuck and they're maybe they don't really know what they want. They know that they're not feeling fulfilled with where their life's at. What would be a first step that you could take if you wanted to start understanding yourself more, learning, who am I? What do I actually want? How am I going to go about this?
Yeah, so I mean, in my book, I really start like there's a whole lot of journaling prompts and exercises, and it really starts with the wheel of life, which is looking at your overall life, and it has different areas such as your emotions, finances, relationships, career, and spirituality, and you rank each area out of 10. But it can really start then to give you a bird's eye view of your life and where some things might be going really well and others aren't going so well. And so then it just maybe starts to trigger that little bit of awareness or that introspection of, what isn't going as well as you'd like in your life and where you might want to put a bit more attention and unpack that. Then we sort of move into your beliefs. And so then there's some more journaling prompts around, and this is how I run through it with my clients as well, is really trying to unpack what are, the limiting beliefs or the things that are holding you back in life from achieving what you really want to do. Because often they'll come to me because they're at a low ebb, then they are a little bit dissatisfied. I mean, you don't really come to a life coach if everything's, fabulous and, you're just carrying on and it's all good. I mean, as much as it probably is good to do it whenever and to really tap into who you are, but it's often really trying to work out why aren't you feeling great and, what can we do about it and what is holding you back. But then I think learning your values is...
You're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbracks.start.page.
So important. And so that's sort of the next step after we come into these beliefs. And it's a much more positive sort of realm where you're really learning, the things that they're like your guiding post for how you do life. And when you understand, what they are, there could be, 5 strong values. Like for me, it's creativity, integrity, connection, legacy, and love, or something, family or something like that. And knowing that these are the things that guide me in life, and it really can help you then even to like be less reactive to people or situations that trigger you, because you're more curious, because you understand who you are, and then you can sort of go, oh well, their values don't obviously align with mine, and so that can be really supportive to navigate life, but then also to make decisions. Maybe adventure is one of your values, and so if you're in a job where you're sitting at a desk non-stop all day, doing data entry, it's probably not, it doesn't align with your values. So then maybe it's, looking for, and it potentially isn't throwing the job in the bin and saying, no, I can't do that. But maybe it's looking outside of, what you do in your personal time to say, right, I need more adventure in my life because it's a value of mine. And so then you start to be able to fill up your cup in other areas. And so then when, you're at work, you're either thinking, okay, I'm working because I'm going to pay for my next adventure, or you are working and then you're going to go off and go for a run in the park or whatever it is that lights you up. So I think it can be so great to do those sort of 3 things.
That makes so much sense. And does that help a lot with overwhelm? Because if you've got those different values mapped out, you've got a filter that you can, put different things through. And I guess overwhelm's one of the biggest issues in the world now. And there's so many different theoretical decisions we can make and paths we can go down. And often we can make no decision because it just feels like, how do I even know what the right one is? So does that help a lot, having that filter that you can put it through?
Yeah, definitely. And even you just saying that right now, because I think when we hopped on and we were talking about how we're just so busy all the time. I mean, I'm launching a book, and you have a podcast, and you sound like you're jet setting all around the world. But it just, even you saying that to me and saying that my values like legacy and integrity and things like that. And so realizing like what I'm doing right now, writing my book, and there is a lot of busyness around that, but I want to leave a legacy. So that's the bigger picture in my life. And so I guess what even happens is that your values can then inform your sort of life purpose in some ways, and that can really support you to feel more that you're heading in the right direction when you know that you're living in alignment with your values and in alignment with your life purpose. And so I guess, for me, and it sounds definitely like for you, is you want to bring awareness to mental health and, help people to have ways that they can nurture and cope with that better, so that they don't get into that overwhelm. And so that's, your purpose. And mine is around that creativity and creating a legacy. And so knowing that I might be busy because there's so much going on around that at the moment, and I've, created all of that. But the bigger picture is that I am creating something. I've created a book, and I'm creating a legacy. And so it can really, I think, help you to know that it's about the bigger picture rather than just the day to day of, oh, how am I going to get through this today? There's too much going on, or, I'm not coping. I feel like I'm drowning. Well, maybe just pick one thing that is the priority, the biggest priority in that time, and then that is moving you towards your purpose. And if there's too many things that aren't, then I think that's when we really need to look at what we can shed from our lives that aren't serving us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, being able to just simplify it in that way, and like you said, having that purpose. So when things do feel exhausting and all consuming, that's sort of the underneath part that really helps you to keep pushing. Because if we don't have a strong enough reason for what we're doing, or if it's for something superficial or it's just about a result, that's only going to last for so long. You can't sustain that long term because there's just not enough reason to keep going. So I think that's so critical that you find what is my deeper purpose. And I know for me, yeah, like you're saying there, it's really in that area of I want to help in the area of mental health and whatever else. And I've got all these other goals within that, but whenever it's feeling overwhelming or I'm getting frustrated that I'm not getting to where I want to get, I try and remind myself that. And I think that then just it strips away the whole comparison, tangibility part of it, and more you go back to mission of, hang on, is this in line with the mission? Maybe it's not, maybe I don't have the biggest podcast in the world, but am I doing the function of what I believe I need to do to make that change? And if you are, then it can ground you, because it's so hard not to get caught up now in just all, you basically, you open your phone and you're getting swayed to compare to other people, to feel inadequate, to feel like we need to make more money, we need to be doing more, our lives aren't exciting enough, we're not achieving enough, and it's never ending. So I think unless we learn to do that ourselves, it'll never go away, because the world's only spitting that in our face more and more.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. And and I do just want to go back to the purpose. Is like, I think sometimes people think, oh my God, I don't know what my purpose is in life. And purpose doesn't have to be, these grand, massive, big gestures. It can just be the way we want to live our lives, like what we want to look back on and reflect at the end is, and it could be that you have great relationships with your friends and family, and that you've supported them to be the best versions of themselves. It doesn't have to be this grand thing. I mean, we're doing these out there things like writing books, having podcasts, you're an actor, but it can really, your purpose can inform you from just, a really grounded level. And it's unique to everyone, and it's how you sort of want to show up in the world, how you want to be remembered at the end of, your life. And I think sometimes we put so much emphasis on our career has to be our purpose, but I don't believe it really does. I mean, it's wonderful if it does. It's amazing if we can be paid. I mean, I talk about ikigai in my book, which is the Japanese concept of being doing what you love and being paid to do it, and what you're really good at as well. And so that is amazing. We can find that intersection. It's incredible. But for some, you might be doing a job that you don't truly love, but it's actually paying for you to be able to do the other things in your life that are important to you, like provide for your family and go on holidays and take adventures, or pay for your special interests and that type of thing. And so I think then that can help with the overwhelm as well, rather than getting up to work, I hate my job, but and just fixating on that and not looking at what does light you up in your life.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Yeah, yeah, and we can get so caught up in that it needs to go a certain way. But I guess even the people that we're comparing ourselves to, or the life we think that we want to be happy, that probably comes with a whole lot of complication and a whole lot of sacrifices and things that you have to give up that basically whatever decision you make, there's going to be some sort of consequence. So we don't really look at that. We only look at the part that we want out of it. So I think, it just simplifies it to be, reminding yourself of these different ways you can go about it. And like you're not going to be on your deathbed looking back and thinking, oh, that was amazing. When I did this huge deal and made this much money or blah, 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 you'll be thinking about more the relationships you had, the things that actually meant something. We're not going to reflect on that a lot. So I guess like what was coming in my mind from that is how important would you say it is in terms of the people that we're around? Does that have a big impact on this? Because I guess an example would be I'm in LA at the moment, and I used to get incredibly overwhelmed. I have to be careful with it because I've got my career in with Move Your Mind, my company, and that's got many facets, the public speaking, podcasts, the business part of it. And then I've got the acting side, and I've sort of found a balance with that now where I'm able to do it in a way that works for me. And I've got my own reasons for how I'm doing it. And I've like pulled back on a lot of the acting stuff. But then if I'm around people that are more just absorbed in that acting world and, a bit self-centered in their mindset, and they're only talking about that, I can easily get overwhelmed and think, oh, I should be doing what they're doing. And why aren't I doing that? And it takes me a while to recalibrate after being around that and realizing, hang on, I've been through this before. I've worked out how I want to go about it, but it's just so easy to get like swayed, have your thinking swayed when you're around people that aren't sort of in line with your vision, I find.
Yeah, definitely. I have there's a section in my book, it's in the nurture. So my book follows a analogy of a butterfly, and so you start out as a caterpillar sluggishly moving through life, and then you go into the chrysalis, and then the nectar is, where you self-care and that type of thing, and it's called Feed Your Soul. And it's so important, I think, to be aware of the influence that the people that we are around can have on us and our energy levels and our moods and that type of thing. And sometimes it's difficult to, if you're working with colleagues that are, can be a bit toxic for us, then it can be hard. And as you're saying, when you're in LA and with other actors and they're so immersed, and it's hard not to get, but it's really having that awareness, I think, that it's happening. And I think so many of us are just wandering around on autopilot and getting impacted by other people and the things they're doing and reacting to them. And so that's where I think coming back to that, really knowing who you are and what your values are, what you stand for, then it's almost like then you can have a bit of an energy shield around you in some ways, as you can look at them with more clarity, I suppose, and be like, oh, well, that's their values, but it's not mine. And it's hard, without a doubt, not to get sucked into, people that have more things, they're keeping up with the Joneses and all of that, or more successful, or all, without a doubt. I mean, that's just intrinsic to human beings. I think we're just hardwired to even have that comparison, because it was part of our survival mechanism to be able to, be superior, because then we would go further, I suppose. So without a doubt, we're hardwired for that. But it's when I think you're really aware of it that you can be less reactive to the impact that has on you. So but it's so important. And look, if there's friendships or even family members that are really toxic for you, then it's about putting boundaries, and limiting the access they have to you or how much you see them, that type of thing, to protect yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that we don't really become aware of enough until you remove yourself from that. And that makes me kind of sad, like the amount of people, because I know I went through it where I had all these different dreams and I had so many people around me, including family, and not for negative reasons, because they were worried about me making the wrong decisions, or, they can't, if they haven't been through it, they're really trying to give you advice based on what worked for them in their life. They have no idea about these different areas you're going into. But when you have, especially parents, like really trying to drum fear into you about the very thing you're trying to chase, it can be debilitating. And I almost didn't move overseas, and it was so important to me to do it because of those kind of things. But I've spoken to so many people, some that I've coached, some that I've just met, friends, friends of friends that have had these different things they want to do, but they get stuck in that cycle of, I want to do it, and I I just need X circumstance to happen, or this, or it's not quite the right time. But you can tell that there's just these different things holding them back, and a lot of people won't end up, making that change sometimes ever because of that. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think that it often will goes back to their limiting beliefs. And so, what is it that's
yeah,
holding them back? That they don't trust themselves or believe that they're good enough to be able to do those things. But equally, then they can try and hold us back from wanting to do those things. And I know, I mean, I was working in corporate, and I've got 4 kids, and so really just entrenched in my community, and stepping up and doing this has definitely ruffled a few feathers with people like that have looked at me, and I'm not doing the same as I was doing before. And they, rather than I guess celebrate that, it's like puts a mirror up to them in some ways, and then they become defensive, and even it can be a little bit attacking at times, or they're trying to protect you, as it sounds like your parents were doing, because they don't want to see you hurt or you risk. And so then they will try and dampen down your drive and your ambition to keep you safe. So yeah, there's so much in it, and I think it really is about just trying to be discerning as much as you possibly can, but then also standing in your power, to trust in yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it.
yeah, and it just all comes back to the very first thing that you're teaching people about, which is just understanding yourself. Because if you have that understanding, then, like you're saying, you can, even if people are totally against, or trying to drive fear into you, you're able to see it for what it is and know, what you need to do to be true to yourself. And the same with those people, like the people that, might be struggling to see you in a different. Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbracks.start.page. Role now than what they're used to, and maybe it's making them feel threatened because they're, it's like you said, holding a mirror up to them, maybe wishing that they had the courage to do something different. If they had done that work where they actually knew themselves well, they wouldn't have that reaction. They would be supportive, and if they would be able to identify what that hole inside them is and fill that in whatever way. So on every single level, if we all just did it, we would eliminate so many like communication problems and relationship problems, and just get rid of a lot of negativity in the world if we could all do the work on ourselves.
Yeah, I love everything that you just said, and I think it's so true. I think if everyone was really knew who they were, then they'd be more content, because they'd be running their own race rather than running someone else's race, or the race society expects them to be running, or what they think society expects. They just know that this is the right thing for them, and they would be feeling more content and at peace and happy. And I know for myself, even I feel like my relationships are better with all of my family members, from knowing who I am, and then I have definitely developed some practices around that to support me to even check in with myself, like meditation and journaling and practicing gratitude and all of that type of thing, to really, rather than, I think we're always running around with resentments and we don't even know what they are. We just feel angry and tired and cranky. And so those sort of practices have supported me as well, to continually be checking in with where I'm at and who I am. And as a result, I feel like I show up as a more sort of grounded and calm, less reactive mum and wife and friend. And well, I hope so anyway.
100%, I'm sure you do. But can we also get addicted to the feeling of being in that struggle, life feeling hard, being stuck? It almost becomes your comfort zone to be in that struggle. Like, I know for me, I made everything so hard for myself, and I had so much doubt and fear, and I allowed opinions in of all of these different people that would put, all these ideas in my head, when I sort of could have just listened to my gut. And I know, like, I mean, I'm constantly having to, reground myself. But when I really made a lot of progress in that area and got clear on what I wanted and started making big changes in that, I almost then got a bit of anxiety that, oh, this feels too simple because it can't be this easy. Not easy in the sense of like it's going to be all just come easily, but easy in the sense of, oh, I sort of know what I want to do. I know what I'm going to do today. I know why I'm doing it. I know what I am and am going to allow in my life and what I'm not going to allow. And this feels too simple. I must be doing something wrong because you're so used to just having all of this just chaos in your life.
Yeah, I think definitely it can be that way. And as women in particular, I feel like we wear this like busyness as a badge of honor, and so if we're not in this state of
Mm,
nearly have too much to do, that then are we doing it right?
yeah.
And yeah, so I really think, and I think it's universal, really, but yeah, it can take a bit of reprogramming to simplify it, and yeah, and then it still is that yeah, am I doing enough? And it comes back to that, am I good enough, really, all the
Mm,
time? Like if it's feeling this simple, like, am I doing enough? Do I need to be doing more? And so it's sort of a real takes a bit of reprogramming, I think, to really come back to trusting and surrendering and knowing that, yeah, if it feels like it's enough, then it's enough.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, trusting your
Exactly.
gut, as you said.
Yep. Just constantly going through that process. And
Mm.
another thing that I know I've had this experience, I'm sure a lot of other people have. We might have like a vision for our life or a goal or, what we feel like is a purpose. And that can change over as we grow, that changes. But can we sort of evolve into something else, but still be attached to what we wanted in the past and be attached to the emotion of that and think we still want that when it actually no longer serves us, and be trying to like hang on to things that we can't let go of because they were so prominent at a certain point in our life.
Yeah, I think that that can definitely be that way. I mean, I know even for myself, I always just wanted to have, a nice house for my family, and my husband, he's a stockbroker, and I know he's not overly content with what he's doing right now, but we've got, yeah, four adult kids, teenagers, they're all still living under a roof. I think we've got five cars in our family. Like life is like
Oh my
super
God.
expensive.
How have you got adult kids? You look young.
I'm turning 50 this year, thanks, Nick.
Wow. Okay. You're looking good. Doing well.
Yeah, so and I'm really grappling at the moment with, thinking, well, if we downsize and, we still need a house that's going to have a roof over our heads, but maybe in a different area, then, my husband then can potentially think more about like what he wants to do that's going to make him happier. But it's a real, I'm struggling, I can tell you. It's
Mm,
hard because, yeah, it was like it's what I've always wanted from when I was like a little girl, and I have that now. And to then, to change, to pivot, it's something that I am grappling with. But I feel like I
yeah.
really need to practice what I preach and to make our life sustainable for all of us. And so, yeah, so I think yeah, it's something that, yeah, it's hard to know, but I'm going through it, so I can definitely say, like, do you have experiences like that as well, of things that you're still doing that?
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at nickbracks. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
You don't know if they really serve you.
Yeah, certain things. I think even with like the acting side of things would probably be the biggest one where I still want it, and I'm in the process of producing a TV show at the moment, and I've taken more that route with it, and going about it in a different way, but in a way where I'm not putting pressure on that I have to just be auditioning for all these things and have it happen in a certain way. But I was definitely very attached to uh, feeling, in my 20s that it had to all take off at a certain point, and I wouldn't, I really put my whole sort of self-worth in those kind of things, and thinking unless I become known enough, unless I become big enough through it, and especially growing up with well-known father. I need to do that, otherwise my life is pointless and whatever else. And I have to remind myself all the time, because I sort of look at that now and I think, wow, like I can't believe I was, thinking that way, because it's just like, even if it happened, it's like fantastic. I would still love that now. And it would be really exciting, but there's much more meaningful things in life, and it's not the most important thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, I find it kind of sad that I was having that thinking where I was attaching the, like you're saying, there's much more important things in life. Like, these are great, nice to haves, and hopefully it will happen. But yeah, just like, it makes me does make me feel sad, because I spent so much of my life attached to, the need for validation. And yeah, again, especially in these industries, I meet so many people who are doing the same thing, and it's a horrible way to live your life.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is, and that's where I think when you understand what your like a overarching purpose is, where it's about impacting people, and of course you're going to impact people if you become a super successful actor. And I mean, yeah, you're not going to close the door on it. You'll say, "Come on in," and then I can do more good and impact and influence more people from the things that really are meaningful to me. But hanging on to that for grim life, and yeah, and sacrificing your well-being and your sense of self because it's not happening. Yeah, I think that's where we
Mm.
need to be able to realize that life is fluid and flowing, and tap into what it is that intrinsically motivates us at the end of the day. And so it sounds like the acting was more an extrinsic motivator for you, as something externally that was validating you, but really, is it really what your overall purpose is? And yeah, for me, with like having a nice house in a nice area, yeah, it's great. But again, it's extrinsic. It's that image that I'm projecting to the world, but
Mm.
it's not ultimately who I am and what I want for the lives and the people that I love around me. I mean, connection and family and my values. And so I want everyone to feel uh, happy and fulfilled. And yeah, so
Yeah.
we've got to sort of let go of those things, right? But it's hard.
It's very hard. Exactly. It's hard. It's very hard to let go of things, I think. But yeah, I think having that reminder is so important, and making sure that, I think, yeah, I guess having good people in your life. I mean, having the family that can ground you and remind you of that, I think, goes back to what we're saying about making sure that you have good people, the right relationships. If they're toxic and you've only got toxic people around you, it's going to be very hard to even get clarity on that, because it's like an echo chamber. You just have all these negative things reinforced on you. So,
Mm,
yeah, it's very important to have that. So
yeah,
I like it.
definitely.
Well, lots of other things I would. What? Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, just surround yourself by good people. They're
Yeah.
people that feel good for you, and when you leave them, like if you're feeling good, then that's a good sign. And if you leave someone's company and you're feeling negative, you're doubting yourself, you're feeling resentful, like that, they're definitely signs that they may need to investigate further.
Exactly. 100%.
Mm,
100%.
mm.
I finish with 5 closing questions. Before I go into those, just want to quickly ask you, what are some things you personally do on a daily or weekly basis to look after your, mental and or physical health?
Yeah, so over the last sort of few years, and I mentioned before, is around the meditation, and so I do guided meditation generally. I just use the Insight Timer app, and then I write just one page in A4 journal, A5 journal, so just a little journal, just whatever's coming up for me, and it really helps just to get the thoughts out of my mind. That might wake up feeling tired or just overwhelmed or whatever, and it can help. And then I finish by writing 3 things I'm grateful for, and that just grounds me, gives me perspective and a bit of clarity that it's not that bad, really. You can get through it. And movement is super important, but probably not every single day. But the morning practice, and I just love that it's the way I start my day, rather than I used to pick up my phone, and so
Mm.
straight away just getting bombarded by that comparison and all of that. And now at least checking in with myself before I check in with the rest of the world. So that really supports me.
Love it. Love it. And final thing before I go into these final questions, where can our listeners go? You've talked about the book and the work you do, and I can't wait to have a look at it, because I think this is all just so relevant. Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you and the work you're doing, purchase your book, etc., where can we send them?
Yeah, sure. So I'm probably most active on Instagram at Emma Lagerlow, and I know it's a mouthful, so I always like to say it's lager like the beer, and low how you feel after you have a bit too much.
That's a good way to
My
put
website.
it. I like it.
I know it's not exactly the wellness, is it? But yeah, got to add a little bit of fun in there every now and again. And then yeah, my website's the same, emmalagerlow.com, and you can find my book on my website. It's called Worthy and Wealthy, and yeah, there's some great bonuses as well. There's a really good 90-page PDF journal that has all the journaling prompts with lots of space to write, which is free if you buy the book. So yeah,
Amazing.
definitely go and check that out if you're intrigued.
Definitely. Make sure to check it out. We'll have all of the links in the show notes as well. So yeah, definitely click on the links, have a look, buy the book, do the 90-page journaling. I'm sure it will make a difference. So yeah, love all of that. So first of these final questions, what is your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
Oh, I guess I was listening to your podcast and I was
Oh,
meant to
good. You've had a
think
bit
more
of
about it.
a...
But the first thing that came up for me was my brother and I. So I'm one of four as well. I'm the eldest, and he was number three. And we used to make up these crazy like obstacle courses, and like I'd have to do more because I'm older and bigger and faster or whatever. So yeah, but we'd have to do like monkey bars, climb a tree, run around the house 3 times, and they were heaps of fun. So anyway, that was the first thing that came up in my mind. But so I guess like
I love
yeah, a
it.
little bit of
Yeah.
competition, outdoors, bit of fun, yeah, all of that. So that was always fun.
That's great. What do you think is currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
I just think that the busyness, that autopilot mentality where we're just doing for the sake of doing, and we're not really checking in with why we're even doing all of that stuff. And I think that is, we can yeah just be a little bit more mindful about our time, and pour a bit of
Mm.
more love and care into ourselves in sort of doing so much, then yeah, we would be much better off.
Yeah, well, it basically makes it impossible to do like the things you're talking about in terms of, really finding who you are and what you care about and everything. You can't really do that if you're just filling your mind with distraction all the time. So,
Yeah,
so true.
yeah.
What would be your personal definition of happiness?
I think it's about fulfilling your purpose, like living in alignment with your values and doing the things that really intrinsically motivate you
Mm.
is happiness. Because I always think happiness is fleeting as well, and so I like to talk even more about fulfillment, because it's that feeling of just contentment. I think if you're doing the things that light you up in your life as
Yeah,
much as you can.
exactly. Exactly. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Keep going. Everything's going to be totally fine. You're on the right path. You're having heaps of fun. Yeah, just enjoy the ride.
Good advice. Enjoy the ride. I think we all need to hear that. I like that. Well, final one. What are you most proud of?
I'm really proud that I have written this book. I started writing a book when I was 25, and it was like a romance novel, yeah, like Mills and Boons. And so now it's definitely like morphed as I've become more, yeah, older, wiser, less naive, I suppose. And so now it's more
Mm.
this self-help. But I am proud of myself because it was there 25 years ago, and like having my 50th birthday this year was really, that was, felt like I really needed to do it. And so I am proud, because it's also a really vulnerable experience writing a book, getting the words out of your head onto paper and then putting them out into the world. And so, yeah, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of, being a mom and all of those things too, but I am really proud of the
Mm.
moment that I've finally written a book.
Well, yeah, congratulations on it and all the work you're doing. It sounds great. And like I said, anyone listening, make sure to check it all out. And yeah, so great to learn more about you, and thank you for coming on and sharing it all. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so nice to meet you. And yeah, I did see you on the television screens all those years ago, and I probably even saw you doing Dancing with the Stars.
Mm. I apologise for that one,
No,
for
I
my
loved
terrible
it.
dancing.
No, it was really good. So really nice to meet you across the screen. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emma Lagerlow, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or just send a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.